Man, you see that up there? That's the sun. So things are looking up today. We've got a lot of flooding, but the sun is out. The sap is starting to flow. As soon as that sun hits these trees, it starts to flow. So we're going to be in business today. Lots of sap to collect, lots to start boiling. So let's get in the greenhouse here, fire up our evaporator, and let's start making some syrup. Hey, get out of here. And then I've got this blower in here. Now this is a blower I've been carrying around for years. Probably 10 years I've been carrying that thing around, maybe more than that. As any good father, when I had young kids, bought them every inflatable known to man, and this was one of the remnants of those long torn and thrown away inflatable toys. So that'll kind of shoot the air straight down the center here. This is where all the hottest air collects, right along this beam, and as the evaporator, the steam will be kind of rising up right here. It'll create a draft, I'm hoping, going straight down that way, and then I'll get a little bit of that out. I'm gonna have to open these windows up too, I'm sure, but we'll get either one or both of these windows open up, and we'll see how well that works for us. Alright, while that gets going, let's go collect some sap from around the yard. So this is kind of a great example of the south-facing tap idea. Obviously up here in the northern hemispheres, the sun is very low in the sky in the winter and early spring months, so the sun is on the south side of these trees. So if you keep the taps on the south side, the branches are going to warm up on that south side of the tree first, and that's where you're going to get most of your sap running up. It pulls it up through the trunk, and that's what we're going to end up with. So you can see this one and this one are both my two south-facing taps, and these were about, I don't know, a quarter full or so. And then this jug over here actually runs around to the north side of the tree. I just decided to try 3 taps on this tree this year. Probably wasn't worth it to put that other tap there, but this one barely had anything in it. So the north side of the tree is always going to run last and less. Alright, now we're cooking. It's not boiling yet, but we're getting a lot of evaporation. And I have noticed that we've got a lot of cracks forming from the hot and the cold. Cement's going to crack and separate and stuff like that. So that's fine. I half expected that. And we get a little smoke coming through there and stuff like that, just depending on how much draft I give the evaporator. I can close the draft off a little bit and it creates kind of a suction on there and we don't get any smoke, but the fire's not as hot. So with the window open here, steam's just kind of rolling right out. I have this fan turned off because actually the wind is completely opposite of the direction it normally blows. And so I'm blowing out this window when normally the wind comes off the field and comes in this window, and this would be helping. So right now it's turned off, but the fan at the front I have turned around, and it seems to be keeping it pretty clear in here. So this will be my full-time job for the next few weeks, keeping this thing running, keeping this thing boiling. So it's working. So now that we're starting to get some production here on a nice sunny day, I've already got 30 gallons in the pan. That's as much as I can put in the pan. And as it evaporates out of there, I'll add more, but I need a storage tank. So we're going to start with this 55-gallon drum. Now, earlier videos I showed a different drum that had vinegar in it. Many of you guys said, hey, you're not going to get that smell out. Well, you guys were right. I tried bleaching it, and I just don't have time to mess with it. I could do baking soda. I could wash it a million times. I could do other things, but I'm not going to do that. So I have this pig watering system I built last year. This barrel has only had water in it. It had RO water in it from a hospital originally. Totally clean. So I'm bleaching it right now, cleaning it up, making sure that it's sterile and good to go. And this is what I'm going to use to go around and collect my sap. And so I think this will work out just fine. I've got some valves and a little fill and stuff like that that I'll put on this, and that'll go in the tractor bucket. So we'll get out there and get collecting. All right, so a lot of people had questions about the taps and things, so I thought I'd go through a few of those. So this is a spile, I guess you'd call this. What this is, this requires a 7/16 hole. This is a larger spile. And so you drill that hole in, usually about 2 inches, 2.5 inches or so, into the tree on a little bit of an angle. And during the variations of cold and hot, during this time of year, the sap starts to get some pressure in the tree, and it's moving up and down in the tree, and so you can capture that through these holes. The sap will come out. It's about, on these silver maples, probably about a 1% sugar content, and some people ask, does it taste sweet? Not really. It tastes like water. It looks like water. It pretty much is water with just a tiny little bit of sugar in it. That's why we have to do all this evaporating to get rid of the water and just leave a higher sugar content, which is our syrup. These taps do not stay in here all year round. You take the tap out at the end of the season. This tap will get pulled out once the temperatures are not dropping below freezing anymore. Once we're getting, into the 60s, 70s, things like that, into late March and April, we'll be done. There won't be any more pressure, won't be any more sap moving. Take these out and put these away, use them for next year. The holes will heal up at that point, and I don't know if I can see if I can find last year's holes. So here's one that I did last year. That's, you can see, completely healed up. And so those will, as long as you don't want to tap it in the same spot, you want to kind of, go around the tree in different areas and things like that. And it should never damage the tree. How many taps can you put in a tree? Well, that really depends. Usually I go by, if a tree is bigger than about 20 inches, 24 inches, we'll give it 2 taps. If it's bigger than about 26, 27 inches in diameter, we can go through 3 taps. And if it's quite a bit bigger than that, you could probably do 4 or 5 taps on it if it's real big. But the more you tap it, the more you risk hurting or stunting the tree, and of course you don't want to do that. So this is a good example of different types of taps. I call these taps. I guess they're spiles also, but the tap, this is the ones I bought on Amazon. These work really well, and this takes a 5/16 hole, so just a little bigger than a 1/4 inch, and those get drilled in, same thing, about 2.5 inches, and then these get pounded in. So that creates, so behind the tap you have a little bit of a gap in that hole where the sap can kind of gather and then flow out and then down your tubes into your collection. I also have these kinds of stainless steel taps. These actually come with a hook that you can put on them, and you can hang a bucket right from them. And then I have this kind of tap. I bought these in bulk. These were way cheaper. These plastic taps, very similar to the blue ones, and they work the same way. So on a good day like today, we'll get we can get a gallon or 2 in a day off of a single tap. I've already got about a 1/2 gallon in there, maybe a 1/4 of a gallon, and it's only been about 1 1/2 hours, 2 hours since I emptied this. So it's going pretty good today. So this whole process is all about timing, and that's what makes it so tricky. You gotta make sure that you get the taps in not too early, not too late. Every day you miss a good run, you're missing a lot of sap. You also have to process the sap quickly. You don't want to let the sap sit too long. If it gets warm, if it sits, it'll start to get cloudy, and that affects the end product here. The syrup won't be as good. So the quicker you can get it from the tree into the evaporator, get it boiled down and get it finished, the better, lighter colored syrup you're going to end up with. The lighter the color, the better. Last year when I did this, I had a lot of darker colored syrup. Because of the little evaporator I was using and stuff like that, I boiled that stuff for days. I just kept adding to it, adding to it, adding to it. I left it on there a really long time. The syrup tasted great. We loved it, but it was a darker colored syrup, so not as high of a grade. So the whole idea is to get this evaporating and boiling and steaming off as quickly as possible. The ratio that we normally get is about, with the silver maples, is somewhere about 50 to 1, maybe even 60 to 1. Okay, these silver maples are not as good as a sugar maple, and that's mainly what I have on this property. So a lot more boiling I have to do. 60 gallons of sap, 50 or 60 gallons of sap will produce 1 gallon of finished syrup. So if you remember a few days ago, I did a video out in this side field here getting these taps put in. Today has been the first day that it's really been running, so let's see if we have collected any sap or if these need to be taken in today or not. So this one has a little bit in it, but not enough to worry about collecting yet. So it's probably the same with the other taps that I put out yesterday. I doubt that we're gonna have to go collect today. The sap will run, it'll run throughout the day into this evening, probably slow down tonight. So what I'll probably do is tomorrow morning I'll get out there and we'll do some collecting. So today I gotta get the kayak back out and get in that forest and finish tapping those trees. I got about 15, 20 more buckets that I'd like to get out. So steaming pretty good. Still not boiling, but we're getting rid of some water here, and that's all that really matters. And as long as we can keep it going at this rate, we'll be fine. So it will get boiling here pretty soon, but I got a lot of water in there. So this pan, when I installed this, it's on a little bit of an angle, so it's sloped down this way just a little bit and over to this corner just a little bit where I have my valve and drain here. What that does is, while this is sitting here evaporating, we're going to be, once I get things really set up, I'll be dripping in the sap through a tube, probably through this window over here, into this corner. And as that evaporates, that sugar content gets higher and higher and higher, and it'll actually, because it's heavier, it will end up kind of settling down here. So down here we'll have our highest sugar content sap, which will be getting closer and closer to syrup, and that will continue to collect down here at this end. And then maybe every day or so I'll come out and we'll drain this off, we'll strain it into a stainless steel pot, and then I'll take that in to finish it off over the stove and turn it into syrup. Alright, we are at a full boil now, and this thing is working great. Got a good little fire going in there. It's going pretty slow and steady. Found another little fan to put up here in the ceiling, so it's helping get the steam blowing out the window, and seems to be working pretty darn good. But man, this thing is cranking, so we'll be able to get through quite a bit of sap. Well, we're still steaming away over here. It's working out really well, actually. The fan seems to be keeping things kind of blowing out towards the window, and the breeze is keeping the place cleared out pretty well. We've probably been steaming for about 6 hours, and it looks like I've gone through, probably steamed off about 10, maybe 15, probably 15, closer to 15 gallons of sap that we've steamed off so far, and looks like there's about 15, 20, maybe 15 gallons still left in there. So we'll go ahead and let this kind of steam out overnight. We'll come out in the morning and get it fired up again, and we'll do our collecting and keep the process going. So alright, so tomorrow the plan will be to use the old tractor and get out and do some kind of more major collecting. Some people asked, why don't you use the tractor to get out in that water and tap the trees? Well, believe it or not, even with these big old tires and that much mud, this thing will get stuck pretty good. It weighs probably about 6,000 pounds, and it sinks in pretty good. So I don't want to do that. What I may do is, remember that barrel I had? got it all cleaned out, ready to go. I may try to mount it on the back here somewhere using this 3-point. Let me get some wood and try to make a platform for that barrel to be on the back, so I can drive this through and fill that barrel up and collect the sap that way. That keeps the weight on my rear tires out in that mud. If I put that barrel up in the front bucket like I had originally planned, it takes a lot of weight off the rear tires, and it's a lot more likely to get stuck that way. So, well, if you've ever wondered why maple syrup is so expensive, organic, natural, you know, real maple syrup, now you have an idea why. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of energy to boil it and collect it and all that stuff. Even without the water mess, it's a lot of work. So, but we're learning a lot this year, and man, am I excited to get some finished syrup made. I may even have enough boiled down by tomorrow to get a gallon siphoned off and finished off inside. I'm going to take you guys through the whole process. Stay tuned tomorrow for collecting the sap with the tractor and the barrels and all that stuff. And I'm just going to continue to improve this process over the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll get a good groove going and we'll be able to process a lot of sap. So the goal is to process 1,000 gallons of sap. And I've already processed about 35 gallons maybe today, so that's a good start. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.